What's up, guys? It's Neal, and I'm back with another video. This is, I don't even know how many attempts I've had at making this, but this is my video for my first 2022 NFL Mock Draft 1.0 for the first round of said draft. I did this a few times last year. I wanted to do it again this year. So this is the first one. I'll probably do a couple more over the next few weeks before we get to the draft. But I've waited a bit to do mine because my first one at least because of how crazy the NFL offseason has been so far, and even just now seeing a couple of things pop up. So with that said, please make sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, let me know your thoughts down below, and make sure to use to turn on post notifications. Excuse me, so you do not miss out on future videos, especially this week because I have a bunch of content coming up. It's WrestleMania week, so there's that. Cup Series race review over the weekend. No Xfinity review because I'll be at work when that race is going. And there's some other content that I'm planning on doing at some point this week, hopefully. So we'll see how it all goes. But with that said, let's go ahead and let's jump into this. I'm using the Draft Network for my mock draft. And there's also a few trades thrown in as well. So with that said, let's get started. So we kick things off with the number one overall pick with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And of course, because they're at number one overall, this pick can go one of a few different ways. Offensive tackle or edge seems to be the primary thought here. And I think it comes down to either Neal or Aiden Hutchinson. I have them taking Neal. Now they brought back Cam Robinson. They brought in Brandon Scherf, but you cannot have too much offensive line help, especially on a team that has so many different issues that they need to fix. Getting Neal would be a very, very solid addition, and it would go a long way to help to protect Trevor Lawrence from potentially becoming Andrew Luck 2.0. So Neal, number one overall, which means that Aiden Hutchinson goes number two to the Detroit Lions. Of course, he played at Michigan. He goes to Detroit. Why not? You can't write this any better. Although I did just see something about Detroit potentially maybe moving down when we get to the draft. Nothing really confirmed, but there was an article in which their GM talked about them having some sort of dialogue with various teams. It probably would be if somebody really wanted to reach for a quarterback. I'm not saying somebody would try to pull what the Bears did to get Mitchell Trubisky, especially considering that they were at 3 and could have just taken him there. But, yeah, so we'll see how that pans out. But for right now, I have them taking Hutchinson at 2. Then at the third pick with the Houston Texans, with some of the guys still on the board here after just 2 picks, they have a few different options. I'm going to have them take Kyle Hamilton here at the third spot. Now, whether he does or does not go in the top 10, that remains to be seen. Part of me wonders if he'll drop out of the top 10 in the draft. But in defense of the pick, you're in an AFC South where it is a bit hard to compete, like in the AFC in general, specifically this year with how many freaking players have been added to various AFC teams. But having Hamilton in your backfield will be a pretty solid addition. And especially in a division where you have to deal with Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill, and Trevor Lawrence. Not the three greatest quarterbacks in the world, but if you can get a few interceptions, that'd be nice. Then we go to the Jets at 4. They have the 4th and 10th picks in the draft. And with the 4th pick, I have them taking Oregon's Kayvon Thibodeaux to join that defensive line. I think Robert Saleh going into this draft will want to get somebody for the defensive line, and there's or on defense in general. And there's a couple of really good ones at the top. If Thibodeaux is there for you at 4, I think they will take him. From the games I was able to watch, because I'm on the East Coast, so I don't get to see all the Oregon games, but from the ones I was able to watch, it obviously stands out. Thibodeaux is a really, really damn good player. So I think he goes 4th. And then we go from the Jets to the Giants, and they have two of the next 3 picks. I have them taking Ikem Ekwonu out of NC State at the 5th pick. They let go of Nate Solder, or they let him go through free agency. He never really panned out over there after bringing him in from New England. So bringing in Ekwonu, having him on one side while you have Andrew Thomas on the other, those are two pretty damn good offensive tackles, and should be some pretty good offensive tackles for the next several years, depending on how things pan out. Then we go to the 6th pick with the Carolina Panthers, and I'm going to be honest with you, they're going to reach. They're going to reach for a quarterback. I think they're going to be the team that reaches at QB. And I have them taking Malik Willis. Now, you can make the argument that maybe Kenny Pickett goes here, and that's entirely possible. But at the same time, I think Willis will probably be the pick here. Either way, the Carolina Panthers are in a bit of desperation mode because Sam Darnold, they traded for him. He has not worked out. They brought back Cam Newton. That didn't work. And if the Panthers don't show some sort of improvement this year, Matt Rule is probably out the door. And then you're on the hunt for another quarterback or another head coach. So better hope and pray to God that Malik Willis works out for you. We'll see. Then we have the 7th pick, the Giants again. And with this one, I have them taking Travon Walker out of Georgia to go on that defensive line. And there's not really much to say here. I think he can play well. He's obviously shown that, and it would be interesting to see him with the Jets defense. If they can improve, that would be great. And adding Travon will go a very good way. Or that will go a long way to doing that. And then we have the first trade of the draft. I have 4 trades in this draft. And the first one is here at number 8 between the Falcons and the Eagles. I have the Eagles taking the 15th pick, which they got from the Miami Dolphins last offseason, I should say. The 19th pick, which of course it belongs to them, and the 124th pick in the 4th round, and send those to the Eagles for the 8th and 213th picks, the 213th being a 6th rounder. And I have them taking Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU to go into their backfield. Of course, the Stingley name is known in football circles because his grandfather, Darryl Stingley, was of course a wide receiver for the Patriots, who unfortunately got paralyzed when he got tackled by Jack Tatum in a game between the Patriots and Raiders. And his dad, Derek Sr., not as notable. He tried getting into the NFL, didn't really pan out, but he played for some other various leagues in his career. So bringing in Stingley will be a very, very solid addition in that division where you're dealing with Carson Wentz and Daniel Jones, both of whom can throw a decent amount of interceptions, especially Jones. And you also have to deal with Dak Prescott, who still has CeeDee Lamb but doesn't have Amari Cooper, so we'll see how things pan out there. Then we have Seattle with the 9th pick. Of course, they got this in the Russell Wilson trade with Denver, and ironically, this pick is one spot ahead of where their original pick landed at 10th, which of course is owned by the Jets, courtesy of the Jamal Adams trade. But at 9, I have Seattle taking Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. It's hard to tell what their QB situation is gonna be going into the season right now. I don't know if Baker and Mayfield ends up over there or somebody else. If not, we'll see. But Seattle's entering a rebuild, and getting an offensive lineman to be a part of that is a nice start. And speaking of the Jets, at 10, I have them taking Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati. He's got the nickname Sauce for a reason, and he's going to be a cornerback that's going to be hard to play against. Will he be the next coming of Darrelle Revis for Jets fans? Who knows? But he definitely looks to be a very solid choice and a very good pickup for them. And having him and Kayvon on that defense on the defense in New York should definitely improve it. Then we have our next trade, this time with Washington at 11. And of course, Green Bay has 2 first-rounders now, courtesy of the Davante Adams trade. And I have them sending both first-rounders, 22nd and 28th, along with the 92nd pick in the 3rd round, to the Commanders, so that the Packers can move up to 11 and not take a wide receiver. They could, potentially. And here's the thing. I could see them taking a receiver here. It would probably be Jamison Williams if he were to fall here. The thing with that is because of Williams' injury, and it's the same thing with David Oyabo, the edge guy from Michigan, or no, not Michigan, I think. But either way, he's another guy projected to go first round, but his injury might cause him to drop. I feel the same thing is going to happen to Williams, and I don't think the Packers are going to take that risk on him when they need guys to help right now. In that case, I have them taking Jermaine Johnson, an edge guy out of Florida State, for their defense. And then at 12, their division rival, the Vikings, take Andrew Booth Jr., the cornerback out of Clemson, to put him in their defensive backfield to go against Aaron Rodgers. Makes sense. Then we have the 13th pick with the Houston Texans. They, of course, have this pick courtesy of the Deshaun Watson trade with Cleveland. And I have them taking George, I'm going to butcher this last name, George Karlaftis, the edge guy from Purdue. I have him going here. Pretty solid addition. Kind of like how the Jets are going edge and corner. The Texans go safety and edge and, continue to rebuild their defense. Then at 14, Baltimore, they take Jordan Davis, defensive lineman out of Georgia. I feel like that would be a great fit for them. And also, congrats to their head coach, John Harbaugh. He just got an extension. I saw that pop up a little bit ago. But the Ravens' focus right now, I think, is trying to figure out what they're going to do with Lamar Jackson. I think the hope over there is that they're going to get a deal done on an extension at some point and not have to franchise tag him. The question is does it happen this offseason, during the season, next year, whatever. But having Jordan Davis on the defensive line and hoping that the Ravens stay healthy, I think it'll be a pretty good start. Then we get to the Falcons at 15 after having traded down with the Eagles. And I have them going with Arkansas wide receiver Treylon Burks here with the 15th pick. You can make the argument that either at 15 or 19, courtesy of the Eagles trade, they could go quarterback, and that's possible. But they also just brought in Marcus Mariota. I think they're going to wait on a QB, maybe take one a little bit later. Somebody that could compete with Mariota. But I think the Falcons are going to try to fill up other needs first. So they go and grab Burks at wide receiver. Then we have the Eagles at 16. This is, of course, the pick they got from the Colts in the Wentz trade last year. And I have them taking Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa to be a part of that offensive line and probably take over at the center spot once Jason Kelce is finally retired. And they need to improve the offensive line anyway because there's been a bunch of guys aging and they need to get some youth in there. Then we go to the 17th pick with the Chargers, and I have them taking linebacker Devin Lloyd out of Utah to add to a defense that has gotten phenomenally better, both with the Khalil Mack trade and with signing J.C. Jackson. That AFC West is going to be stacked as fuck this year. It's a fucking incredible. And so the Chargers, getting Lloyd, adding him to the defense will make it even better. Then we have the Saints at 18, and I have them taking Devontae Wyatt, the other defensive lineman out of Georgia. Well, I mean, there's like 3 of them that could go in the top, the first round or whatever, but I have them taking the other one, Devontae Wyatt. So you have Trayvon Walker, the first Georgia defensive lineman to go, then Jordan Davis, then Devontae Wyatt. We don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. You have to think and hope that Michael Thomas will be 100% healthy. Not to mention, how is Jameis Winston going to be coming off his injury? But with that said, grabbing Wyatt would be a very solid choice for the defense. Then we have the Falcons at 19, and I have them taking Daxton Hill at safety out of Michigan. Looking at some of the options here at this point and some of the needs that they have, Hill just feels like the best choice at this point in time, at this spot, if this trade happens. Then we go to 20. You can make the argument that maybe the Steelers could go offensive line, they could go defensive line, they could go for something else. I have them taking Kenny Pickett, though. Yes, they brought in Mitch Trubisky, but don't put it past Pittsburgh to draft Kenny if he falls to them at 20. They're not going to trade up for him, but if he falls to them, I think they take him. So he can compete with Mitch. Probably not win the starting job right away, but he could get the starting spot down the road. And also, he played at Pittsburgh, so it's like, it's a pretty good match there. Then we have the third trade of the draft, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals moving up to 21 with New England. Of course, as I said, or as we've seen, the Bengals, after what they did last season, they didn't take Penei Sewell, which I wasn't happy about, but they did miraculously somehow make the Super Bowl, despite all the sack that Burrow was taking, and now they're improving the offensive line to show that they know what they can be without one. Now let's see what they can be with one. And this trade adds to that. So they send the 31st, 95th, and 136th pick, so a first, a third, and a fourth, to the Patriots for the 21st and 127th pick. So essentially the Patriots get a first and a third, and they swap fourths. So the Bengals could move up to 21 and take Kenyon Green, offensive lineman out of Texas A&M, to add to their offensive line. Then we have the Commanders at 22 after having traded down with the Packers. I had them taking Drake London, wide receiver out of USC. I'll be interested to see how Carson Wentz does over there. I'll leave it at that. Then at 23, Arizona, I have them taking Trent McDuffie, the cornerback out of Washington. It seems like things are going all right over there with them and Kyler Murray. That whole thing that happened earlier this offseason was weird. But either way, we'll see how things pan out. But getting Trent McDuffie for the defensive backfield will be a very solid choice. Obviously, they don't have to deal with Russell Wilson anymore, but they do still have to deal with either Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, one of the two, because Garoppolo hasn't been traded yet. And they'll also have Matthew Stafford to deal with as well. So getting McDuffie, solid choice. Then we have Dallas at 24, and I'll be honest with you, this is simply a Dallas Cowboys pick that would, if it happens, if it comes about, I could see it. And that's Jamison Williams getting picked by the Cowboys. I said before, I have Williams falling because of the injury he suffered last season, I believe in the championship game. And if not for that injury, I do think he could go top 10. Maybe a little higher. But in this case, he falls to Dallas at 24. And, it would just be the ultimate Cowboys thing to do, especially after getting rid of Amari Cooper. And then we have the final trade of the draft, at least that I have, and for the first round, that is, the Chiefs moving up from 29th to 25th, sending the 29th and 94th picks to the Bills for the 25th pick. Of course, they now have 2 first-rounders back-to-back, courtesy of the Tyreek Hill trade. Excuse me. And the 29th pick, originally belonging to San Francisco, but of course was traded to Miami last year. They move up to grab Chris Olave, wide receiver, to help fill the void left behind by the aforementioned Tyreek Hill. At 26, I have the Titans taking Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. Offensive tackle, you need protection. At 27, the Buccaneers, they lost Ali Marpet to retirement and Alex Kappa to the Bengals in free agency. So I think they bring in Zion Johnson to the offensive line out of Boston College to fill that void. At 28, Washington takes Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. At 29, Buffalo gets a running back. They get Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State. And Buffalo this year, I would not be surprised if they make it to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs are going to have to figure things out without Tyreek Hill, which is going to make things different for them, obviously. Buffalo, so there's no guarantee that Buffalo will run into them again in the playoffs this year. Not to mention the fact that once Buffalo gets an actual running back so that Josh Allen doesn't have to run all the time, once they do that, the Bills, I think, are pretty much set. I mean, they got Von Miller this offseason, which is a big move. They are set to make a Super Bowl run, and I think they could potentially win it this year, depending on how things go. So, Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State goes to the Bills. I had the Chiefs taking Jaquan Brisker out of the safety out of Penn State at number 30 to replace Tyrann Mathieu, who they aren't bringing back. Then the Patriots at 31. I mean, they like their Alabama prospects because, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, all that. So I have them taking Christian Harris, the linebacker out of Alabama. It just feels like the New England thing to do. And at 32, the Lions, courtesy of having the Rams pick from the Goff Stafford trade, I have them taking wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State to finish things off in the first round. So that's my first round mock draft 1.0 for this year. Again, I'll probably do a couple of more before we get to the draft itself. But to look at some of the guys that are still left on the board, obviously David Oyabo, who I was correct, he did go to Michigan. He would be taken in the first round if not for the injury he suffered at his pro day. There's also Nakobe Dean, the linebacker out of Georgia. Jahan Dotson, wide receiver out of Penn State. DeMarvin Leo from Texas A&M. Isaiah Spiller, also from Texas A&M. Desmond Ridder, Lewis Sine, Perron Winfrey, Boye Mafe, Sky Moore, Roger McCreary. And there's going to be a couple of other quarterbacks to come up as well. Most likely on day 2. Guys like Matt Corral and Sam Howell. There's also George Pickens from Georgia. So definitely could see some of these guys move up or down depending on how things go. And again, we still have time before the draft, so things are going to happen, and it's going to change things up for when I do the next mock draft, whenever that will be. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this one. Again, let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on future uploads. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.